Nick Stahl here with CropX Support, and we are talking how to schedule the last irrigation. And why is this important? Well, first and foremost, we are trying to save the grower money. Each additional irrigation that's applied that's not needed is going to cost up to $1,200, possibly more, depending on your water source. The main thing is we want to end that season with a dry soil. That's going to provide optimum conditions for harvest. If we were working with a wet soil during harvest, that's going to cause compaction. And even more importantly, we want to make sure there's additional room in the profile for any off-season moisture. And if we don't have that room and we do get a rainfall during harvest, that's going to really delay getting back into the field if that field's already wet or may not have enough room for the rainfall that we received. So what do we need to know in order to evaluate whether or not we're done irrigating? First of all, we need to know, when is that crop going to mature? How much water do we need to get to maturity, and how much water do we have in our profile right now inside our root zone? So if we figure out all of those things and we come back here and look at a chart that gives us some of that information. For example, if we are at R5, quarter milk line, and we'll look at an example of a field in a sensor here in just a second. So if we're at quarter milk line, we have about 19 days to maturity and a little over 3 inches of water needed to get there. For a soybean field at R5, we've got about 30 days to maturity and a little over 6 inches of water needed. As you're going into the last month of the irrigation season, be in frequent communication with the grower about the stage of the crop. So for example, in corn, you really want to key in on that starch line, or otherwise called the milk line. So as that starch fills that kernel, we know how close we're getting to maturity. So for example, at a half milk line, that gives us about 12 to 14 days to maturity and about 2 inches needed to get there. This is some numbers from a study that is basically saying, hey, when you get to the later R stages, R4, R5, shutting off irrigation or any additional water added to the profile whatsoever does not result in a significant yield penalty. So the numbers we see here, for example, so they shut off irrigation or any rainfall. This was a controlled environment to a corn crop at the beginning dent stage. And there was only a very slight yield penalty for doing so. Let's go ahead and take a look at an example. This is in East Central Nebraska. This is about an R5, a quarter milk line crop. So we have about 18 to 20 days to maturity. We know we need about 3 inches to get us through those next 3 weeks. We just irrigated within the last day or so. This is a wiper pivot, so we can actually see the double application here. We added about 1.5 inches of water to our profile. We've been lowering our refill line over the last several weeks in order to prepare the soil for the off season. So we've got about 1.5 inches of available water in this profile. We know we need about 3 inches to get to maturity. So that extra 1.5 inches needs to either come from rainfall in the next 2.5 weeks or from additional irrigation. Right now, the forecast for the next 7 days looks more favorable for moisture compared to the last couple weeks. So it's very possible we might catch a half inch, an inch, or maybe even more between now and the next couple weeks. So depending on how that weather plays out, we may need to irrigate one more time. And if we do catch a rain, we know we're going to be done irrigating. So if you have any other questions regarding scheduling the last irrigation, feel free to contact CropX support or your territory manager, and we can help you calculate some of these numbers. Thanks.